Alright all, and welcome back to another video, and I hope you guys are all keeping well as we head into another Cheltenham Festival Ante-Post update video. These videos have done very well so far, so hopefully you guys are enjoying this small little series. I know it is sporadic, it isn't exactly timed, but I did think I would do one after the weekend that has taken place there. A really good weekend's action between Newbury, Newcastle and Fairyhouse. And there's plenty of, well, there was plenty of clues, there's been plenty of market support for horses since races from the weekend, so I thought I'd be covering all of that. As you can see, I've shaved the beard off for the last day of November, so just the moustache there. I'll have that in the description again last time out. If you could, I'd be very grateful if you could even give a few quid to the cause. I know another few of the subscribers did so last week, so thanks to all of them. You guys know who you are. Unfortunately, with the racing club, it was a bit of a shame. Drummond Lad, I hope I've pronounced that correctly this time. I was called out for calling him Drummond Lad when he's actually called Drummond Lad. Got a little bit of an infection in his leg the day of Saturday, so was pulled out of the maiden hurdle, which is a shame. Hopefully will be seen out in the next few weeks alongside one of the other racing club horses, Do This Like This, who hopefully will run in a bumper this weekend for John McConnell, fingers crossed, at Navan on Sunday. So all good to see all of that. Those links, as always, will be in the description below. But moving in to the weekend's action, starting off at Friday in Newbury. And there was a really impressive novice hurdler. And you guys, the people that know me well, will know I don't usually fall over Paul Nicholls' horses, to be honest. I'll be the first person to oppose them. But I've really liked this brave man's game. I think he's a seriously good horse. I assume he will go towards a Ballymore this year. It does seem that the Shallow will be the next target in line for him. And if he does win that, he's going to have to go to Cheltenham, you'd think. I'm not sure whether he's a proposition for a novice hurdle this year. I'd be keen to know your guys' thoughts on that. He is a massive horse. He surely will be seen to best effect next year over fences. And even if he did run at Cheltenham, it wouldn't surprise me if he got beat and we'd see a better horse of him next year. So he's one to certainly keep in the long-term kind of tracker, or like not even a tracker, but just like a long-term feeling that this horse could be a really good chaser down the line. He's built like a brick house, and he was a superb winner of the novice hurdle at Newbury, beating a horse called A Perfecto for Alan King, and Bothwell Bridge was back in third for Nicky Henderson, who was maybe a little bit disappointing. The Stayers hurdle raced the long distance hurdle. I keep getting the long distance and the long walk hurdle confused. The long walk will be next month at Ascot, which I assume we'll see an awful lot of these horses run against each other again. I thought it was a cracking race. I obviously thought it was a cracking race. As people will know, I've put up Thyme Hill earlier in the season at 16-1 for the Stayers hurdle. I think he's now into around 5-1, 11-2. So that bet is currently looking good, and I couldn't have been more impressed with the horse. I went a bit doolally on Twitter there for a few minutes after the race. I thought it was really impressive. I get where people are coming from in terms of it was an encouraging run from Paisley Park, and I was willing to take him on the weekend, or on Friday. He didn't win, but he ran probably a better race than I thought he would. McFabulous didn't seem to quite get home. There seems to be this kind of a bit of talk that, oh yeah, well, Paisley Park kind of almost obviously will reverse the form, and I'm not really sure that I agree with that. Now, obviously, there's always going to be a hint of bias with a horse that you've put up and backed, but I think Thyme Hill, I think there's still any amount of improvement left in him. You have to remember that was his first run outside of novice company. And he's won really impressively, holding Paisley Park all the way. And yes, I understand Paisley Park will improve for that run, but I can't see any suggestion as to why Thyme Hill wouldn't improve more even for that run. And if he keeps improving more, he's going to be a serious proposition. So Thyme Hill, really impressed with him. Paisley Park was good to see him back healthy and run a good race. But I wouldn't be as convinced that it's just as easy as reversing the form like that. Moving on to Saturday, there's a horse also that ran on Friday that I'm going to discuss later in the video. But a horse We're going on to Saturday, looking at Fairyhouse. There was a few very nice performances, starting off with Monkfish in the Beginner's Chase. Now, he did this really nicely. He's a horse I haven't quite grown to just yet, but I must say his chasing debut would make you grow to him, to be honest. He was a superb winner, and it was a pretty good field, to be honest. I think it was a better field than people gave it credit for. Sam's Profile was a one-time very good novice hurdler. Dial Kerr hasn't looked maybe quite as good over fences this year as he looked maybe over hurdles last year, but I still think it was a very good performance. Now, the only thing I have an issue with this horse is that he's now 4-1 for the RSA, which quite frankly I think is a ridiculous price. And I know I moan a little bit about bookies clipping horses in, but Monkfish at 4-1 is a brutal price, I believe. I see, like, people are trying to make it easy for themselves with Cheltenham for 2021, and I can understand where people are coming from, because these horses are putting in big performances, but it's not going to be... I just don't believe it's as simple as, Shishkin wins the Arkle, Envoy wins the Marsh, Monkfish wins the RSA. 2 of 3 of them may win, 1 out of 3 of them may win, but it's not, like, especially in the middle of November, it's not as easy as just the 3 of them will win. Like, you don't know what's going to happen between then and now, and I think the RSA could be a stacked race this year, personally. I think an awful lot of people will look to get away from Envoy, so I think you'll have all of Gordon's other good horses running up at 3 miles. You forget the big getaway, the big breakaway everyone was eulogising about the other week for the RSA. Suddenly that talk's all gone down since Monkfish's ran. Latest exhibition still there. He may be a little bit vulnerable. Pencil Full of Lead beat him 7 lengths, and Court Maid, who was beaten 20 lengths in that Florida Pearl Novices Chase, went and won the Porterstown by half the track. So form of that race looks pretty strong if you're asking me, and brace yourself, it was third, came second in the Porterstown. So I just think there's more to this RSA division than maybe the other divisions, personally. Or even what it's going to be, because I see Easy Work probably stepping up to 3 miles, because they don't want Easy Work to have to finish second or third to Envoy again. So I just don't think it's as straightforward as 4-1, personally. I can understand why he's favoured. I think he's the right favourite, don't get me wrong, and I was really impressed by his chase debut, but he's a 6-7-1 chance in my book, not a 4-1 chance. He'll need to go out again. I've got a few stats about the RSA which are quite interesting, but it would indicate that this horse has to run in a graded race before Cheltenham if he really wants a chance to win the race. All the stats would prove it in the last 20 years. Concertista won the mares race and won it very snug, very cool. Paul Townend. Paul Townend's riding with such confidence at the moment, and he's a real good rider when he's riding with ice through his veins, because he delivered Concertista to absolute perfection to beat Manila Melody and Queen's Brook. An awful lot of talk about this mare, where she'll go. I personally think, to be honest, I'd be more favouring her at 2 miles than 2.5 miles at Cheltenham, especially. I think she's a real sweet traveller. I'm not sure whether she is up to winning a champion hurdle, but I think that trip would probably suit her a little bit better. I think she's a very smooth traveller. I wouldn't be sure. Like, obviously she could have won with any amount in hand, but that form from the weekend is nothing to get overly excited about. Queen's Brook ran an absolute stinker, didn't jump a twig all the way around, and Manila Melody's been beaten up by good Grade 1 horses in her life. She hasn't actually proved that she can beat a Grade 1 horse in my eyes. I remember her even falling in a Grade 3 Mares Novice Hurdle last year against Ardowan. Like, an Ardowan wouldn't get within 2 furlongs of some of the horses in the Mares Hurdle and the Champion Hurdle and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be just as convinced by the form of the weekend. I understand she was very impressive. And it almost hurts me saying this about Willie Mullins horses, because you'll know, if you watched an awful lot of the videos, I am quite Willie Mullins biased. I'd almost admit that myself. But I just haven't quite grown to Concertista, personally, and I'd need to see it again. And I just think 2 miles probably sees her to better effect, and I'd like to see her in a better standard race, to be honest. I wouldn't be pinning my Cheltenham dreams on her beating Manila Melody a half length, as snug as it was, and it was extremely snug, and it could have been 10 lengths, it could have been 15 lengths. I still wouldn't want that as my main piece of form. Two of the maiden hurdle winners were both very good. Hookup won the first division, beating Gardesau. Gardesau was very disappointing, I thought. Looked in real need of a trip and didn't jump very well. She's now 14-1 for the mare's novice. She might go down that route. She is obviously a second season novice. She ran in the Triumph last year. I'd be surprised if she was good enough to win it, personally. And horse called Keskin Risk, who was making his debut for Joseph O'Brien. He won a bumper for the Hides last year at Fairyhouse. And he did it quite well to reel in a horse called Indigo Breeze, a Gordon Elliott. I don't think he's won for this year from a novice hurdle perspective. He still looked a big work in progress, so maybe one to keep an eye on in years to come, but maybe not for this year. Over at Newbury on Saturday, Next Destination put in a real good chase debut. Not much more he could have done, winning a Grade 2 and chase debut was some feat. It was a very windy Grade 2 though, and his main market rival jumped like an absolute spud. So it's something to bear in mind. I don't know whether he'll go to the RSA or maybe up to the National Hunt Chase. I'd say they'll probably have a crack at the RSA. Has a squeak, I suppose, wouldn't be for me. Floressa won the Jerry Fielden. She's a good mare, good solid mare. I'd say I'd see no reason to suggest why she wouldn't go down the mare's hurdle path, but she'll find a few too good at that level, I'd say. Marie's Rock, very disappointing. Botox has, I know he was giving a lot of weight away, but I was hoping for maybe a little bit more. There was still a little side of me that thought Botox has may just develop into a potential outsider for a champion hurdle, and he wanted to have won or come a close second in that race for that to be true, and he wasn't, so maybe he's just not quite as good as I thought he was, or maybe he needs a fence next year. I'm not sure, but Floressa was very good. I think the second horse, Milkwood, was very unlucky, though obviously he was brought to a near standstill at 2 out by a faller. The Hennessy, or the Ladbrokes Trophy itself, not much really from a Cheltenham perspective, but Cloth capped it superbly from the front. Vindication travelled pretty well, but his jumping again let him down, and he unseated at the cross fence. My big fancy for the race, the Conditional, ran an absolute stormer, I thought. Hopefully there's another big handicap in this horse. He's really likeable. He tries so hard. He's a good jumper. And he resulted in a bit of good each way money for us. And up at Newcastle, the main one, Epatante, winning the Fighting Fifth hurdle. Look, she was really impressive. There's no getting away from it. She travels with such gears. She's a good, fluent hurdler. You seem to be able to just light her up going down to it the last, and away she goes. Look, the bare form of the race is nothing spectacular. The race was a bit of a farce with what happened at the start. Silver Streak was carried out. He might have Branner, given her a bit more of a race. Just the overall complexion, because it did leave So Royal in front, and he's a stalker, not a leader. So it's, I don't know. But Epatante, she did it well. There's no getting away from it. She's now a ridiculous price for the champion hurdle. Is she the most likely winner of the champion hurdle? Yes. Would I be backing her at the prices she is? No. So that's pretty much it. And I can't, let us go without mentioning the legend that is York Hill winning the Rehearsal Chase. Almost brought a tear to the eye seeing him actually enjoy himself back on the racecourse again. An absolute fruitcake. But he's a legend of a horse, and very, very fair play to all connections. Andy Thompson, Dave Armstrong and Lee Westwood have bought him and sweetened him up, and he seems to be back enjoying himself. And, fingers crossed he can put in another few decent efforts in those types of races. But 66-1, I think he went off. That was a massive price. To be I wouldn't have gone near him myself, but it was good to see him. Good to see him win, and good to see him showing himself in some form. Sunday at Fairyhouse, a few really good races. Well, really, not maybe really good races from a spectacle perspective, but some really good horses running in the races. One I was really impressed with was Allaho, who is making my Triumph Hurdle selection, I suspect, pace a little bit. Nassalam. I wasn't too keen seeing Allaho, to be honest. He was really good, I thought. I think they hold that Saint Sam or Saint Sam in pretty high regard at the Willie Mullins Yard. Druids Altar obviously had won a juvenile hurdle at the track previously by quite a bit, and he was absolutely stuffed. This horse jumped superbly, he travelled superbly. I think he's a seriously good horse. He's now favourite for the Triumph Hurdle, and I can see why. I think he's still 10, 12 to 1. It's not maybe the worst price in the world, although the Triumph Hurdle is an open market. I do know that, and it's usually a very volatile market as a result, because we mightn't have seen the best juvenile hurdler even out yet, but this horse could be a very good horse. If you haven't seen that race, please do go back and do so. Ballyadam won the Royal Bond. Look, I put up Ballyadam. I thought he was good. I don't think he was great, though. His jumping left an awful lot to be desired, I thought. I think the horses in behind him, Caskmate and Ngolo, are good horses, but they're not great horses. I don't think they're proper Grade 1 horses. They're maybe very strong Grade 2 horses, that being said. So I think he did it quite nicely. I thought the fact that he quickened up at the back of the last, even after making a meal of the last, was impressive. I think he's still got an awful lot to improve upon. But he's a rubbish price for the Supreme, personally. He's, I think, 7 to 1 favourite now. Personally, I'd have Fernie Hollow ahead of him, based off what we've seen so far. I think this Ballyadam needs to really screw up his jumping. He could do so, and one must think, because I was the first person to crab it, this time last year, Abacadabras was a brutal jumper. Because he almost lost the Royal Bond with a bad mistake. I think it was 3 out, and didn't jump the last very well either. And he went obviously within a neck or a head or something of winning the Supreme. So these horses can improve massively from a jumping perspective. It's just the price. Like it's a poor price given what he's done on the weekend. I see an awful lot of people were on to me about Ngolo. I can't see it. Like I quite like Ngolo. I thought he ran a good race. I just think he's always going to kind of be like that in a Grade 1 race. Personally, I don't know. Willie Mullins has had horses like this before that have won, like the For Auction at Navan, or run well in these types of races. Like Quick Grab'em a few years ago, Aramon did it and stuff like that. And they get to the Supreme and they're just not quite good enough, or in Quick Grab'em's case, they didn't get to the Supreme. But I don't know. I'd be dubious about Ngolo. He wouldn't be for me for one of the Grade 1 novice hurdles at Cheltenham, personally. I don't think he's just quite good enough. I think he'll always find a few too good at that level, albeit it was a good run. Envoy did it very nicely. Look, it was another hack round, to be honest. He wasn't even pressured on the front end. Rachel Blackmore tried to make a race of it, coming down to 2 out. I thought for a second, oh no, the worst is going to happen here and he's going to get beat, but he absolutely stormed home, jumped the last beautifully, and you'd have to think he has a massive chance in the Marsh. It's not really getting away with it. There's nothing I can say that you probably haven't heard before from somebody else, but good to see him retain that unbeaten record, and still looking as good, I suppose, as he always has done. Then Honeysuckle, a mare that I know a few of you guys have given me a bit of stick about, because I didn't really warm to her last year. I thought she was the most likely winner of this race, and she did quite nicely. I thought I called the race actually pretty well, because I kind of thought that was going to happen to Ronald Pump, good old Orr Pump, that he might come home and pick up the pieces, and he was actually... I was so impressed with Ronald Pump. The turn of foot from him at the back of the last. Jesus, I don't know. I think the only problem I have with Honeysuckle is actually the Honeysuckle fans. I've no problem with the mare herself. I've no problem with Henry de Bromhead. I've absolutely no problem with Rachel Blackmore. But you've got to, if you're going to rate Honeysuckle's performance on the weekend, which I personally would, you've got to rate the whole piece of form, I think. And therefore, like, you can't have these people, and there will be some of you people out there, I reckon, that will go, oh, Honeysuckle's so impressive. Oh, yeah, she wins again at Cheltenham. Oh, great. And yet, well, does Ronald Pump then have a chance in the Stayers? Oh, no, of course Ronald Pump doesn't have a chance in the Stayers. Like, if Honeysuckle is as good as people make her out to be, which she may well be, Ronald Pump has a massive chance in the Stayers hurdle, and I think at the moment, form-wise, is the best Irish chance in the Stayers hurdle, personally. I know Fury Road could be better. Sard of Burley is obviously a decent horse. But if you're going to rate the form, Ronald Pump has to be it. I cannot wait for Christmas. I'm not. I don't think you can back at Ante-Post at the moment because there won't be a market for it. But immediately the Ante-Post comes up for the 3 mile grade 1 at Leopardstown at Christmas, I'll be all over or Pump. I know I bang on about him a lot, but he put in a really good performance, I thought, considering he's always going to be short of speed over 2.5 and stayed on very well to the line. I would be of the impression the form is strong. I thought Honeysuckle did it really well. I think she's a very good mare, and I think Ronald Pump does have a chance in the Stayers hurdle and probably is the leading Irish fancy at the moment. I was thinking of a bet for this episode because I usually do try and give a bet. And to be honest, I can't find one, and I'm not going to force one. It's not going to be like last year where I just forced selections up. I've already got 6 up at the moment. It's a fairly solid 6, I'd have said. It will be in the description, the 6, but it's Samoa, 20 to 1 for the champion hurdle, latest exhibition, 16 to 1 for the RSA, Allaho, either 14 or 16 to 1 for the Ryanair. I can't remember which one that is. Thyme Hill's definitely 16 to 1 for the Stayers. Delta Work at 40s for the Gold Cup. And Nassalam at 25 to 1 for the Triumph Hurdle. I do have a short list of horses that are catching my eye at the prices. So I will go through them. I couldn't bring myself to put any of them up for this episode. I probably will have one in a few weeks' time, another one to add to the list. I think I don't know where they're going to go with Benny the Jew. I don't know how well she is. She obviously won't be seen until the new year at earliest. I don't think, I personally think she probably will just rock up at Cheltenham again, based off what you could find in Willie Mullins' stable tour. I think she's now 7 to 1 for the Mare's hurdle, and it's somewhat of a tempting price, I believe. I'd have thought there's more chance for running in the Mare's hurdle and the Mare's chase, personally. I know some of you guys might disagree with that, and if you have any inside knowledge, please do inform me of the case. I haven't backed her, but I think 7 to 1 is getting a big price, just in case, Honeysuckle or Concert Easter takes up the champion hurdle route. I think obviously is going to be a very winnable race. She'd beat everything else by a furlong, and she just has those 2 mares to worry about. I wouldn't be sure though. She's one, as I say, on the short list, but it's hard to know where she'll go. For the Mare's Chase, the reason I don't think Benny will go to the Mare's Chase is A, she's not very sound, and they've said before that she stays sounder over hurdles than over fences. And also I think Willie Mullins has great chances for the Mare's Chase anyway. And there's 2 horses at 12 to 1. Ellie May, the McManus horse, a big white mare, just got beat by Bill Me Up Buttercup in a hurdle race on reappearance. She'll go back over fences. She's got a massive chance. And a horse I really like called El File for Kenny Alexander. Hasn't been seen yet this year. Has yet to jump a fence as well. So that's the only thing that's putting me off her as well. Colreevy came out. She's 14 to 1. She'll more than likely run in the race. So there's a few there that have big chances. So it's not like he's short-handed in the race in the first place. But as I say, that's just my take on it. The one I was actually quite close to putting up, but I just thought it was too speculative. I've had a look at the Albert Bartlett market. And I know the Albert Bartlett's not really a race to be getting involved in at this time of the year, and hence me not putting this horse up as a kind of official selection. But I just look at the Albert Bartlett market, and it's just littered with non-runners. Appreciated's the favourite. Geez, things will have to have gone seriously wrong for that Appreciated to rock up in the Bartlett, I reckon. He'd have to have really disappointed over hurdles if that's the case. Holy Macaponi's there. Maybe he'll run, but he's only run once over hurdles. Over 2.5 as well. You don't know where he'll go, whether they'll mind him this year or not. Brave Man's Game is in there. I'd be very surprised if he ran in the race, because they'll have chasing in mind. If he goes anywhere, I assume it'll be a Ballymore. So there's an awful lot of horses like that, and you're there going, well, like Deploy the Getaway's in there. Like, we haven't even seen him running a bumper yet. So it's a race full of non-runners, and if you look down long enough, a horse that ran at Friday at Doncaster, I think actually will run in this race if he can step up a little bit more. And he's at 50 to 1, and it's a horse called Bob Hope or No Hope for Kim Bailey. He's won twice over hurdles now, both over 2 mile 5, and just looks a real stout stayer. The only thing that's tempering it is A, we don't know what's going to rock up in the Bartlett, and B, the form of his races is decent but not great. So I don't know how good he is, but he certainly shapes as if 3 miles will see him to best effect. He beat Ask a Honey Bee, who was only just beaten, I think, a neck in the French Furs on the weekend at Newcastle. He beat A Perfecto, who fell when probably was going to be 4th at Exeter behind him, who ended up finishing 2nd to Brave Man's Game. And a horse called Catamora came 6th in that race at Exeter, which was around a month ago, and came 2nd at Ludlow next time out. Obviously, the form of Doncaster will be unproven, but there was a previous winner in Nick Guard there. The only problem I have with the Doncaster one was that the second favourite fell, and in doing so brought down the third favourite. So the form does look maybe a bit sketchy from the other day. The form of the Exeter run looks a bit better. But he's a stout stayer. He's a horse I'd just have a look out for. If he was to step up in class next time out and run well, he's potentially a horse that you might have a nibble at. 50 to 1 is a huge price. I think there's a lot of non-runners in it. Bob Hope or No Hope may be one to just consider, but he's not, unfortunately, an official selection. I just couldn't find one that was good enough for that I really fancied, and I'm trying to keep it so much more disciplined this time round. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I know it's been a very long one, so if you have stuck through it for the whole thing, thank you very much. If you do have any thoughts about the weekend, any Cheltenham fancies going forward because of the weekend, do make sure to let me know down below in the comments, and of course look at the links as well down in the description. And until next time, which will be a Tingle Creek preview going forward into next weekend, I hope you stay safe, stay well, and land a few bets midweek, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.